Here's what's coming up on your horizon. Well, it's been a year of recovery for Moore, Oklahoma. The devastating tornado that killed 25 and injured close to 400 marks its one-year anniversary this week. Today, we'll give you a look inside a new film that chronicles the role of faith and hope in overcoming such devastation. And we end our day on a much lighter note and meet some world champions in pumpkin chunking. Stay with us and I'll explain.
Oklahoma Horizon is made possible by the Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education.
Oklahoma's investment in Career Tech provides more than nationally recognized technology education and training. It produces solid financial returns for the state's economic future. Oklahoma Career Tech, elevating our economy.
And the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping good people grow good things. And now, from the Career Tech Studios in Stillwater, here's your host, Rob McClendon.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. Well, this week it will be 1 year since an EF5 tornado tore through Moore, Oklahoma. A devastating storm that killed 25 people, some of those children huddled in the hallways of their school. Now, since that tragedy, parents continue their fight to ensure no child will ever again be caught in a school without access to a storm shelter. Meanwhile, subdivisions destroyed by the storm are also slowly being rebuilt using stricter new building codes. But it is the lives of those most affected by the killer storm we're going to focus on today. A group of local filmmakers followed several families chronicling their recovery. It's a documentary that opened this weekend in the very theater some took shelter in. It's a moving film we'll tell you more about later in our show. But first, a glimpse into just one of the stories from the Moore tornado.
And as the freight train noise starts, things start hitting the top of the shelter. And I keep thinking, okay, this is it. And it just gets louder and it gets louder, and then our ears start to pop. I'm thinking my son's in that school. And so I just prayed.
It's every parent's worst nightmare.
I just kept saying out loud, God, please protect the children. God, please save my son. Please protect my son. Please save the children. And that's all I could say. And I was just screaming it over and over, just trying to block out the noise.
And a tragic reality for Elise Newby.
Guys, as you're tracking this, we got to tell you, a school down in Moore. We know a school in Moore has been hit, an elementary school.
We're also getting word that some kids may be trapped.
The wall fell down, and it was immediately just so crushing of a feeling. I immediately thought, we're gone. We're gonna die. It was immediate.
First grade teacher, Lisa Marinelli.
I just kept praying, just please keep us safe, please, help me to breathe. And I kept trying to calm myself down because, you can't even move. So I just continuously prayed that we would make it through, that the weight of the wall wouldn't come down anymore.
And under her, unharmed, Elisa's son, Liam.
All the teachers in the halls that day had thrown themselves over what students they had remaining. And Miss Marinelli happened to have the 3 smallest boys left in her class. And she was able to wrap herself completely around them.
After they pulled her out, and while they had her at the hospital, all she wanted to know was, are my boys okay? And she hadn't heard anything, and of course we didn't know that she had been injured. We knew it was a miracle that he was okay. We didn't know how that was possible.
We immediately went up to OU Medical Center where she was at the hospital. And as soon as they opened the door, I knew that they knew that he was with me, that he was under me, because I don't even think Elise said a word. She just burst into tears and ran over to me and hugged me and basically just told me to thank you for saving her baby. We just kept telling her, you're a hero. You're our absolute hero, and thank you. It was obvious that we were immediately bonded for life. all I could think about was how can I pay this woman back for what she'd done? You can't repay somebody for saving your child's life. That's a priceless gift. You get that gift from God, and then God gave us another miracle when He gave us her.
And with multiple injuries, teacher Lisa Marinelli's recovery has not been an easy one. But we are happy to tell you she's back in the classroom and is expecting her first child exactly 1 year to the date of the Moore tornado. And as for young Liam, well, he's finishing second grade, and Mama Lise says he's doing just fine.
Liam he's doing amazingly well. We've worked with him a lot on fear. After the tornado, he was definitely, loud noises bothered him. Fireworks are still an issue, the booms and the lights going out. But we've done a lot of different things. Somebody from Joplin that I connected with, she actually suggested a storm journal. So we have him write down things that make him brave and write down when he's scared, and then he'll go back and read it whenever there's a storm. And it's been a good tool to help him get over kind of what he's been going through. And just, he's at a different school now, and the kids in his class have been just so sweet and amazing to him. They've been very supportive, so that's been awesome. It's been very good for him.
Now, their story is one of several of hope and resilience told in a just-released film called Where Was God? When we return, we take a closer look and meet the film's producer.
You're watching Oklahoma Horizon, featuring some of the good things that are happening in the great state of Oklahoma.
Well, like most disasters, the Moore tornado became national news. But after the national news crews left, a group of local filmmakers stayed behind to tell the story of recovery in a film called Where Was God? The documentary, directed, produced, edited, and filmed in Oklahoma, follows the stories of survivors, parents, children, first responders, and volunteers who recount the timeline of the destruction and share the devastating yet miraculous events that changed their lives forever.
And you see, it's a violent tornado. This is a tornado emergency. Operators, my God, get below ground if at all possible.
I've seen tornadoes that big, and I know what size of a tornado that people start dying in, and this was it.
And about the time we think we know something, there's always a surprise. We find out how little we do know.
We knew there were children missing. Well, when you have children missing in rubble, you know it's not going to be good news.
I'm thinking my son's in that school.
They were terrified. They didn't know if they were going to be able to see the light of day ever again.
My dad was holding the building. When he heard that everybody had gone out of the building, he took his last breath. But he didn't forget to tell us that he loved us.
After a private screening, I sat down with the film's producer, Stephen Earp, to talk about the faith that drove him to tell these stories.
Well, first, when the storm hit, all of us were thrust into being disaster relief workers, providing food, helping people shovel through their lots. And after about 2 or 3 weeks of it, a friend approached me who is a Christian filmmaker. His name is Chris Forbes, and he had an idea. Hey, what would it look like if we were to follow people for 3, 6, 9, 12 months, and follow them, with a series of interviews? And what does recovery look like for them? Not just the physical recovery that that you can see, the rebuilding of houses and whatnot, but how does one emotionally recover, or how does one spiritually recover from experiencing tragedy? And even the question, what does a tragedy do to your faith? And these are questions, and we thought, well, let's just start talking to people. We talked to hundreds and hundreds of people last summer. We were already involved in disaster relief deeply, as every church in Moore was. And we started, there were just so many stories of hope and smiles in the midst of struggles, and faith and hope and overcoming. And we just felt like we need to tell some of these stories in a bigger way. So,
the name of your film is where was God?
Right.
And I think you probably have struck the one question that most anyone would ask in such a tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a common question, and actually I think the most common question I get from people who are people of faith and also people who are skeptics is the question, why? Why does God allow difficult things to happen? And that's a common question. And I would say as a pastor, we cannot presume to know the mind of God, and we would not want to be so arrogant to try to answer the question why. I just don't think we can answer that question. But what I do think we can do is reflect on the question, where was God? And what we've done with this film is through the first-person testimonies of people. The film is not scripted in any way. These are just first-person testimonies of how even in the darkest times, these people, these families, feel as if they encountered God in some significant way. And in every story, there's a handful of families, as you know, in the film. In every story, they experienced some sort of inner transformation in the process of walking through tragedy.
I went back to where they were digging the kids out. I kept waiting and kept waiting. And finally, the first responders told us that they taped off the area, told us that we had to, leave that area. So I found a hot water tank sitting out behind the school, and I went and sat down on it.
Just knowing that I've got my deputies down there dealing with these children that have passed, and that I've got these parents out there that are experiencing the greatest horror that they could ever imagine. And that kind of grips you and makes you want to do something else. It makes you want to do more. It makes you want to make sure everybody's okay, and you can't make that happen.
That was the longest night
of my life.
That was a living hell.
That's what I would say. Where was God? During the darkest times, we all experience death. We all experience sickness. We all experience suffering and tragedies. It can be an illness, or it can be the loss of a relationship, or divorce or bankruptcy, whatever it is. And so it's a common question that we have. And the big idea behind the film, what we see in the testimonies of these people, is during life's storms, God is always near. God is still present, even in the dark times. We can learn from those times, we can grow, we can develop.
The closer I got, of course, there was houses standing as I'm running through the neighborhood. And when I made the last corner and I saw, and it was just leveled. And of course, I'm just running and running and running. And when I make the final corner right there at Plaza Towers, and I look down the street, and her and the kids were standing there in the street. I said, we're good. Everything's gonna be just fine.
I am really drawn to people who go through a very difficult time in life. Someone walks through a tragedy and they still love people and trust God. I am drawn to these. I am drawn to them. There's something of spiritual depth and emotional richness that people can pick up from a struggle that may not be able to be picked up any other way.
I would use the word wisdom.
I think I would agree. That's a great word for it. It's the life experience, agreed.
You have said that you did this film for more. You're from Moore. Sure. You pastor here in Moore. You said you've done this film for more. And you've hit on it a little bit, but what other lessons can anyone that sees this film across the country take away from this film?
Here's what I think. The film is really not about the Moore tornado. The film is about the storms of life. And every family in the film walked through some struggle. In the film, topics of suicide, the loss of children, substance abuse, a number of different life storms are addressed. And in each case, the individuals, they experienced hope and faith and overcoming. So I believe anybody that sees the film can connect with at least somebody in the film and get some hope. You know, when someone watches this, I believe if someone watches this and they're going through a hard time, they can identify with someone that is, you know, chronicled in the film and say, you know what, if that young lady can go through that, then I can get through what I'm going through.
Talking to these survivors, how has it changed you?
I am deeply moved by just the hearts of people to encounter hardship and overcome. It changes me and it impacts me deeply, and it's obviously hard for me to talk about even now. But I have a real sense, you know, when someone's walking through a difficult time, I can feel that a little bit. And so for me, it has strengthened my own faith. And I think also connecting with someone's pain. You know, the Scripture tells us that the Lord is near to the brokenhearted. And so my feeling is that when I'm close to someone who's suffering, that I'm also closer to the heart of God because of that. And so that's what I really think. Grit is what, you know, you use the word wisdom. Grit might be another way to say it. I mean, to what extent can someone encounter a difficulty and recover? You know, how quickly can we recover or rebound? Can we still have a positive outlook on life? And so when I encounter people that have experienced some of the most dark types of loss that I can't even fathom, the loss of a child, to me, it impacts me at the deepest levels. It makes me want to pursue God more. It causes me to have more compassion. I want to reach out. And so I've been deeply impacted by this. I am not the same person that I was 12 months ago. I'm definitely more compassionate. I'm definitely more understanding. So yeah, I'm different. I'm transformed as a result of this.
One of my own personal frustrations, this is going to come out here, is people that say, well, you know, the old Islamic thing, inshallah, God's will, that just happens, you know, and I don't think it is God's will, you know. Where I'm trying to get is, what responsibility do we have as people of just doing the right thing?
I think it's a great question. And certainly I believe God put us on this earth to be stewards of the earth, and He makes us responsible for our lives. So we certainly want to work to make changes and to grow, and I think it would be irresponsible for us to just throw up our hands and say whatever happens is going to happen. We want to take responsibility, but at the same time, you know, let's take action, but let's trust God at the same time. And those might seem like they're opposing things, and perhaps there's some tension between me taking responsibility and me trusting God. But I think that tension is supposed to be there. I think, so if you ask me, you know, should we take more responsibility to prevent tragedies? Yes. Should we trust God even in the face of tragedies? Yes.
A final question. Where do you go from here with this film?
It is going to depend, to use a phrase that maybe not everybody likes, it's going to depend on what God does with it. Not to be overly spiritual, but reality is we don't know what's going to happen next. My heart is to bring hope and healing to the city of Moore. So we hope that everybody in Moore watches this. I do believe it can have a far more broad impact than just Moore. And if doors open for that to happen, then we're going to step through those doors. If they don't, then we'll keep doing what we're doing now. You know, putting the film on DVD, we could eventually love to get it in every household in the area. So, you know, right now, people can go online right now and, you know, they can host screenings in different states. But that's not the same as, you know, having theaters just open up to share the film. So I don't know, but I hope that it will have just as broad of an impact as it possibly can have.
Well, it's certainly a moving, important piece of film, and congratulations for having done it.
Thank you so much. And I greatly appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this. It's an honor to be with you.
Where Was God? Stories of Hope After the Storm is screening for 1 week at the Warren Theater and more, while additional showings are available throughout the country via the documentary's website. Want to share something you've seen here today? Well, all of our episodes are streaming on our YouTube channel at Oklahoma Horizon TV, or you can subscribe to our weekly free podcasts on iTunes. Finally today, on a much lighter note, probably few teachers would consider using a medieval siege weapon to teach their students about technology. But Corey Weinsberg isn't like most teachers. Joining me now is our Lisa Hines.
Well, Rob, every year when the pumpkins are ripe, people from around the world gather for a competition called Pumpkin Chunkin'. And when one Oklahoma teacher saw the event, he knew his students had to take part.
3, 2, 1.
From air cannons shooting pumpkins at close to 700 miles per hour, to catapults called trebuchets, hurling pumpkins high into the sky. The World Pumpkin Chunkin' Contest brings people from around the world to put their engineering skills to the test. Career Tech welding instructor Corey Weinsberg.
Watching pumpkin chunking on Thanksgiving 3 years ago, the week we got back, I said, guys, let's build us a pumpkin chunker and we're gonna build a trebuchet. And so we had one built within 3 days and was trying to get a baseball going forward out of it. And we now have it to this 3 years later.
But why a trebuchet?
Why not? I mean, it's a class project where we get to design it, we get to build it, and the students get the real deal that they're gonna do out in industry. And it's a fun project and it's great for recruiting too.
And Corey says they started out with small prototypes.
We built them to where they would collapse and fail, and research and design and development and experimenting, trying to see what materials we should use and not use. So that helped out a whole lot in the design of our big one.
Now for Chuck Profit, Corey's teaching method using the trebuchet keeps his interest.
I love it. It's a cool experience. Came down here from Utah to get in a welding program, found Corey Weinsberg, put me in the program, and at NTC in Little Kansas, Oklahoma, put me to work and showed me everything that I know as of right now. I've seen it on pumpkin chunking, but we made one and I was just mind-blowing.
So what do you do with a colossal machine once it's built? You use it.
We took it to Bridgeville, Delaware last November, and we competed in the youth trebuchet division with my students and set a new world record.
A record of 2,402 feet. Very impressive, considering the previous record was 1,526 feet.
Oh, we won, for sure. Yeah.
Joseph Ramirez was there and said there really wasn't much competition against them.
Our machine's too powerful, and we're going to get the adults next year.
Yep, you heard right. Adults. Because they won last year as a student team, they now have to compete against the adult teams. So our fingers are crossed for them. But to help hone their skills, Corey is laying down the gauntlet.
We need some competition. That's a fact. We need more other welding programs or any other program that's willing. We'll host a contest somewhere out here maybe. We want some competition in Oklahoma. For sure.
Now I wanted to show you firsthand what it would be like to be hurled through the air. But unfortunately, things didn't go quite according to plan.
So what happened?
Well, Rob, we took this little old camera of ours that we've had since about 2007. It's seen better days. And Corey's class developed a little case so that we could attach it to the bowling ball, and that way we could just throw the bowling ball with the camera. Everything was going great until it landed. And then I think it landed directly on the camera and smashed it, and the SD card got corrupted. So we didn't get the video, but it was a great idea.
Now, I also understand the camera wasn't the only thing put at risk on this shoot.
No, let me show you what happened. As the very first shot of the day, everything was going great, and then the rope broke. And the bowling ball went straight up into the air, into the sun. You couldn't see where it was. So everybody is scurrying and trying to get out of the way. And if you'll notice the little lady in the black jacket there. That's me. I'm running for my life trying to escape this bowling ball, but you don't know where it's going to land. Fortunately, it landed about 200 yards behind us and nobody was hurt.
Well, I'm glad you came back all in one piece, even if the camera didn't.
Me too.
All right, thanks so much, Elise.
You're welcome, Rob.
I don't think anybody was prepared for what it was going to be like.
Next time on Oklahoma Horizon, we get unprecedented access into the lives of those fighting the longest war in U.S. history in a new film called The Hornet's Nest. Plus, we meet an Oklahoman helping the children of fallen comrades get their education. On Oklahoma Show for the Heartland, Oklahoma Horizon. Looks like we are out of time. I'm Rob McClendon. Thanks for watching. See you back here next week.
Thank you for watching Oklahoma Horizon.